A grainy chat message appears on a screen. Someone types, "I want to disappear. Can you help me?" A reply appears instantly. "Yes, I can make that happen." This exchange would begin one of Japan's darkest digital nightmares. What happens when a predator hides behind kindness? In a quiet suburb, there's a narrow hallway with a single door at the end. Behind this door, 9 people walked in. None walked out. Soon, the news broadcast flashed across the country, a nation in shock. Bodies found in Zama apartment. Suspect arrested, 27 years old. Japan, known for its low crime rates, had never seen anything like this. When police swarmed the building, the suspect, Takahiro Shiraishi, stepped out calmly, his expression completely blank. He didn't resist, he didn't deny. He only said, "I did it." But the real question was, why? His victims never saw a monster. They saw a friend. His Twitter profile was unassuming, an anime icon, a gentle bio, nothing alarming. But underneath, he had perfected a chilling method. In private messages, he typed the words vulnerable people longed to hear. "Are you okay? I can help you. You're not alone." He weaponized sympathy. This is the story of Takahiro Shiraishi, the Twitter killer. Looking into his past, you find no violence, no chaos, no obvious warning signs. Just school photos and quiet neighborhoods.
So where does darkness begin when it seems to have no origin? The shift was subtle. A teenage Takahiro, standing alone at school, ignored by the crowds. Isolation doesn't break everyone, but it broke him. He moved to Tokyo, seeking anonymity, a place to vanish into the bright lights and endless crowds. He found a job as a scout, recruiting girls for nightlife districts. The work taught him one thing: how to read the vulnerable. He watched his coworkers sweet-talk strangers with lies, and he learned how to sound caring even when he felt nothing. He eventually settled in a cold, quiet, forgettable apartment building in Zama. Monsters don't need castles. Sometimes they just need silence. And in that silence, he was watching. On Twitter, dark hashtags bloomed like poison flowers. #suicidepartner. A young woman posts, "I wish someone would understand me." He replies, "I will." Soon after, she steps into his hallway. She thought she'd found a friend. He knew he'd found a victim. And between each crime, his routine was unnervingly calm. He cooked, he cleaned, he chatted online as if nothing had happened. A neighbor later recalled strange noises, saying, "I thought it was just furniture." Everyone hears warning signs, not everyone recognizes them. He messaged his contacts a lot. "I only help those who want to disappear peacefully." But that wasn't the truth. As families reported their loved ones missing, and one person refused to give up, the older brother of a victim started searching her social media, whispering to himself, "Who is this guy?" He found Shiraishi's profile. It was the first crack in the mask. The police got involved, creating their own fake accounts, monitoring the same hashtags, entering the same digital shadows he lived in. The brother kept digging, following his sister's digital footprints right to Shiraishi's town, Zama. He went straight to the police. Detectives began surveillance on the apartment, waiting for one mistake. It came in the form of suspicious trash bags leaving his door. This was the moment the truth began leaking out. Police knocked. Takahiro opened the door casually, greeting them like guests. "We need to ask a few questions," an officer said. Inside the apartment, a detective saw something chilling. He froze. But before the questions could even begin, Takahiro smiled faintly and said softly, "It's okay. I'll tell you everything." With that single sentence, Japan's worst digital predator was exposed. But the most disturbing part wasn't what he did. When the police finally opened the door to Takahiro Shiraishi's apartment, they stood frozen. He sat calmly on the floor, as if he'd been waiting for them. He didn't look afraid, he looked relieved. What kind of killer relaxes when the police arrive?
A detective asked quietly, "How many?" Without blinking, Takahiro answered, 9. The room fell silent. It was the calmest confession they had ever heard. His phone revealed his method. Hundreds of messages, dozens of Twitter accounts. He didn't choose victims at random. He researched their pain. In a small notebook on his table, they found his records, dates, times, initials. He kept these records not because he was proud, but because he wanted control. Control was his real addiction. In the interrogation room, he sat with his hands folded. An officer asked, "Why did you do it?" His answer chilled the entire room. Because no one cared about them. He had weaponized sympathy, using gentle words and fake empathy to mirror their suffering, so he could use it against them. 9 victims, 9 stories, 9 cries for help, all answered by the wrong person. The news erupted. Twitter killer arrested. The story became a national shockwave. The internet, once his hunting ground, became the world's alarm system. For the victims' families, the arrest brought answers, but no comfort. In the courtroom, reporters gasped. Shiraishi looked calm, almost emotionless. He showed no remorse because he believed he had justified everything. He told the court, "I only targeted those who wanted to die." But the prosecutors revealed the truth. Not all of them did. His lies began to unravel. Screens displayed the victims' own words, tweets filled with despair, but also confusion and even hope. He had rewritten their stories to excuse his actions. Psychological experts described him as manipulative, emotionally detached, an expert at mimicking empathy. Shiraishi wasn't insane. He was aware, calculated, and disturbingly patient. His crimes followed a rehearsed method, disguised as compassion. But during the testimony from one victim's brother, Takahiro looked down for the first time. For a brief moment, his mask slipped. Was it guilt, fear, or just annoyance that his story was collapsing? The judge asked, "Do you understand the consequences of your actions?" His response was cold, but honest. "I understand what I did. Outside, citizens demanded justice. The nation demanded accountability." The judge announced the sentence: death by hanging. Japan rarely uses the death penalty, but in this case, the nation agreed. Takahiro just nodded slightly. No tears, no anger. He accepted it as if he'd expected this ending all along. On death row, the silence he once used as a weapon became his prison. In a final interview, a journalist asked if he regretted anything. After a long pause, he said, "I regret getting caught." It was not remorse, it was ego. Soon after, a guard brought him the execution notice, his final sunrise. As his footsteps echoed down the hallway, the man who preyed on the lonely now faced the ultimate loneliness. His last words were, "I hope they find peace." For the first time, the world wondered if he meant it. And just like that, Japan's most calculated digital predator was gone. His crimes forced a global change in how social media platforms protect the vulnerable. His digital footprint was erased, leaving only questions. Was he born a predator, or created by a world that ignored the lonely? In the end, it wasn't Twitter that made him dangerous. It was the silence between every message.